What's going on, guys? HotSauceZee here. Today I wanted to do a video sort of similar to one that you may have seen Enders do on his YouTube channel recently, and it sparked something and made me want to create my own. It's sort of like, I guess, how I'm looking at rotating in Battlefield and like things to look out for. Ender's video, he was talking about like the importance specifically of getting kills and what that does as far as like filling voids and like map flow and everything, like what just killing a massive amount of enemies does in order to help your team. This video is, I'm going to hint at that, and that's a very important point, and Ender's put together a great video over there on Paint about specifically that topic, but I wanted to make a video about specifically what I've been looking at lately and how I've been trying to improve my game as far as like my rotations go and like my positioning, and specifically in trying to fix some of the overextension issues that I have. So this video is going to be about that, so stick around. If you guys enjoy the video, please be sure to give it a like and also consider subscribing. It's massive help to the channel. If you don't like this video, feel free to dislike it. That's totally fine as well. But alright, let's get into this. Okay, so this is going to like just a simple little 3 flag layout, you know, not anything particular, but hopefully this will get the idea across. Okay, so let's put a couple enemies on the A flag here. They own this flag, so there's going to be, you know, several on it and around it. And then we'll put similar over here. You got some friendlies. All right. And so these are the 2 flags that these 2 teams own. And you're going to have, you know, of course, these guys are going to be moving this way. These guys are going to be moving this way. Everybody's going to be meeting, trying to get that C flag. And you're also going to have, you know, some people going this way and some people going this way. So there's going to be a clash here. Then you're also going to have a, you know, a clash around the C point as the teams, you know, converge in here. A particular like weak point in my game is a lot of times you'll experience like your team is at B, and I'll immediately be trying to like get to C. So I'll have my team back here, and then I'll be the lone guy that's like already made to C. Like I'm trying to cap this, right? And so I'm by myself. And let's say, you know, typically what happens in that circumstance, and you know, I'm a decent player, but what'll happen in that circumstance is I'll all of a sudden like, let's say the enemy team's perhaps a little bit stronger. So there's already like maybe 3 people down here. Now all of a sudden I'm in a 1v3 and I have no team help. Depending on the strength of the players that are down here, you know, I may be able to take them all out, but it's very possible that while I'm down here, I could also maybe have a couple enemies that are pushing over to B. Maybe they're trying to flank, you know, to the right of B as they're heading towards it over here. So now all of a sudden, you see I've pushed up, I'm past my team, I'm down here, and I'm in a bind because I'm now surrounded in multiple directions. And, you know, let's say I engage this guy here, you know, these 2 might hear that, turn around and shoot me, or this guy, I may not see him. He may see, you know, this guy go down, for example, through the flag, and then he turns around and he's, you know, he kills me. That's a big problem I've got in my game. That's something I'm trying to work on. So, how can I, you know, somewhat fix that? What I need to do is, you know, not just push extremely beyond the border of my team here, you know. Like, they're kind of defending this point, so at most, I probably want to come to around this line and kind of work with the team and moving the entire team forward rather than coming up here by myself. You know, that'd probably be a better play. That's something I need to work on and not overextend. And a lot of times that's kind of difficult because as a good player, you know, I want to get to C, I want to cap that so that we're, you know, we have a majority on the map. But like I'm saying, a lot of times I'll overextend, I'll get myself in a bind, and I'll get surrounded. So what I'm trying to work on is like sticking closer to this line, if that makes sense. And then you, of course, definitely don't want to be in this situation where, let's say, like they control A, we control B. You've got the primary crux of like your teammates are also moving this way. So let's say you have a couple down here, and then, you know, the rest are at B, and then this team, for whatever reason, is just hanging out at A. A lot of times I'll find myself in the situation where I'm this guy. I'm like here, and now all of a sudden, like, I'm in a massive 1vx situation, like pretty much unnecessarily. The play here probably would have been to instead go ahead and come down here with my team and that way I'm with the team. I've got backup in case we get a couple of guys approaching here. Perhaps I'm aware of that, which I would be. And I'm here, they're coming in, but I do have team backup for when that clash happens around this area. Like, this is going to be your front line as this team pushes in this way. And then my team comes down into C and also is hopefully, watching towards the A direction. This right here is a much better spot to be in, because I have the support of the team. I've got safety to my back. Now, of course, you could have a couple of enemies, pushing in this way. So maybe there's, a couple coming in this way. But again, I still have the team support kind of here, and, back along here, I'm going to have team support. So it's all about kind of, when you're moving around the map, you need to be looking at where these boundary lines are at. So in this kind of situation right here, you'd have your front is going to be like this-ish area, because this is where, everybody's at. So your fighting is going to be happening along this red line. Then, of course, down here, you're going to have kind of like a no man's land. This could be somewhat safe. There's a chance that there could be a stray enemy that is snuck down this way and is going to try and hit C from this angle. But your fighting is going to happen along here, so you're going to want to try and stick along this front line. I feel like I'm kind of hitting along the same points here, but like you don't want to be that guy that's like, okay, all of a sudden I'm right here, and then this is just a really, really bad place to be because you've got yourself surrounded. Let's say you're pushing in, you happen to just like miss these two guys. They're behind a rock, they're in a bush or something moving along, and now you're moving forward. These guys are coming out of A, so you're going to end up fighting these guys. You might take that guy out, and you might take this guy out, and cool, you have a free run at A, but then all the commotion, these guys right here are going to see you, and they're going to be looking at you, and you're in a 2v1 with your back to them as you're moving into A here, and so you're going to end up dying, and that's not what you want to do. And this is something that I'm working on. I could be wrong. This is just one way to look at it, but this is a way I'm thinking of improving my gameplay, and that's just kind of, let's get rid of all of that, and then let's say, we have enemies here, we got our front line here, and then I'm going to be somewhere, I'll be one of these dots, or like maybe I'm here, I'm kind of leading the charge, but I'm along that front line, so we can all work together in order to take out this person, and this person, leaving this guy, and that's going to shift that line from here. It's going to shift it forward. So now all of a sudden the line is right here. You're knocking on the door of that objective, and we can move up into that new line, and we're really putting the pressure on A now. Now, of course, that's gonna it's all it's all shifting, and of course there's a lot more blue dots right now. That's just because we've been doing different things. But you're putting the pressure on A. You're going to have those guys you just killed. They're going to be respawning probably backside of A. Unless the spawns are weird like they are in Battlefield sometimes. This A spawn may actually drop an enemy. It may spawn them back here, and that's something you got to be aware of. But these guys, hopefully, as they're moving either to A or C, will see these guys and, take them out. And so you're somewhat good, and you're still able to apply that pressure onto A and go in and cap it. It's all about, moving as a team. Which, when you get up into the upper levels of play, you realize a lot of times that these blueberries, these blue dots, are not really doing what you're thinking they're going to be doing. You're going to have people that are going to be, let's say there's a hill back here behind B or whatever. Like, take, for example, Mercury. You see this all the time on that map. You're going to have a sniper back here, along this back, and they're not going to move. They're just going to be pretty well being useless. They're going to be sniping the occasional guy way back here that's doing the same thing. Let's say these two enemy red dots are also doing the same thing on the back side of the map. These guys might be fighting, they may take a couple pot shots at A, hit a couple, but they're going to respawn back here like I was talking about, and they're going to move back onto A, and these snipers back here have not really done anything. So you don't want to be these guys that are sitting in the back. You want to be moving around. You can still be a sniper. You can still do that, but you need to move with your team. You need to be on the objective, defending it. You can even be you can hang out. Let's say that, that front line shifted up to this point like we drew earlier. You could be a sniper right here. That's still long range. Let's say this is a couple, 50 to 100 meters here from here to here. You can still be sniping. That's still the effective range of that weapon. but you're up with your team, you're moving with them, you're playing to the strength of your weapon, and you're keeping your distance, and then you're sniping these people off of A. So now look at that. Now all of a sudden, you've shifted that front line away from here. Let's get all this out of here. You've shifted that front line completely back. Now the line is going to be back here, leaving the objective free for the taking. So you can take all this out, you take all that out, and now all of a sudden your team can move up. And let's say you got 4 or 5 people in here on this. Let's say this is the cap zone. You know, now it's a nice little 5v3. You can take, these guys can take the rest of these guys out, and then you're starting to cap this, and it's becoming part of your team. Now, while all that's happening, there's going to be a couple guys. They're going to be respawning. Again, back here, probably in a somewhat what the game decides a safe zone. Maybe some back here. Always something to keep an eye out for, depending on which part of the objective you're on, which side. That it could spawn them somewhere else. And you're going to also have a lot of them, you know, there's going to be several enemies that are moving down this way. Perhaps they start making a dent on C, you know, they're like, it's like almost half capped, as is the flow typically on Conquest. And you've moved in, and you're starting to cap this one. So that's something to keep in mind as well, because you may have enemies that are going to try and swoop back in and flank you from the rear. And they could potentially meet these spawn people. And so that's just something you have to be aware of as you're rotating around the map. This is kind of like the flow of Conquest, right? So let's say in this new scenario that they, you know, they have both objectives. This is like, maybe they fought off that push we were just hypothetically talking about. There's 3 of them that have lived through the exchange, and they're able to recap that. Then there was a big push as the friendly team was trying to cap A. There was a big push as we kind of forced people off. Maybe they, you know, hit spawn or whatever off screen over here, and a couple of them came in from spawn to this. They recapped that, but of course there was a couple move down here. So let's say they were able to recap this, and now there's a couple on C as well. That's going to put your front line now again, depending on how deep, you know, your team still is. It could be something like this. You know, this is like the safe zone. You're safe on this side of the line, whereas like this area is the area you're gonna have to be really careful about being in. Let's say, you know, you realize this is going south, couldn't fight your way out, you somehow managed to get down into this area. You're still very much like in danger. You have to look at you have to split the map as you're playing into these zones like this. And this is something, the reason I'm making this video is because this is something I'm working on myself. I'm a pretty decent player, but like a lot of times I'll put myself in situations just like this where like I'm the lone guy that's pushed up, and now I've got to account for a lot more angles than I normally would if I was just like, say here, and then I've got team that are kind of like, all right, we're trying to come to A, and like I'm right here. And we've also got some team that are, you know, slowly making their way down this way towards C as well. Just main idea of the video here is you want to be on this or along this front line. This is where you want to be. You don't want to be this guy that's out here, because I mean, odds are you're going to get caught by surprise. This guy's going to see you and he's going to take you out, or one of these guys is going to see you and they're going to shoot you and take you out. You know, there could be some guys up here that are working on pushing A, and if you're this guy that's right here and you've got guys right here, all of a sudden, you know, look, you're very surrounded. And there could be some back this way that are, you know, in flux kind of between these 2 points. Your front line is here, so you don't want to be here. You want to be with your team back on this side over here. This is where you're going to want to be, you know, and this is not to say that you can't be aggressive, because you've got to have some people on the team that are playing aggressive and shifting this front line and working on shifting it. And that just kind of takes me back to my earlier point. You can't be the sniper that's just sitting back here. You're not being helpful. It's a battlefield round, especially with Conquest, and you know, this is in other modes as well. It's just a lot more compressed in games like Breakthrough. You want to be shifting this front line to where it eventually ends up being, you know, and you see this in like stacked games, you know, the front line is here and this enemy team is like just trying to come up against it, you know, and recap these points. Let me clear that off. That was getting a little messy, but yeah, you know, you've got your, you know, if you push them back, and let's say these objectives are claimed now. This is good. This is good. you've got map control. Your front line is along here, and this is where the fighting's happening. Let's say their spawn is on this side. You're working on, just bleeding their tickets at this point, because you've got team pretty much defending these flags and along this line, and you've got the enemy team just trying to fight their way out of spawn. And again, you don't want to be that guy that like, all right, I've pushed pretty aggressively and now I'm back here. That's just the main point of the video, and that's the reason I wanted to make it, because it's something I'm working on doing. I feel a lot of times in a round that I'm constantly this guy because I'm trying to play aggressive. I'm trying to somewhat get kills and keep the momentum going and keep myself entertained by, staying in the action. But a lot of times I'll do that to the detriment of myself, and I'll put myself in a bad situation where I'm in multiple, sight lines and multiple fights at once, constant 1vx's. And I feel like that ends up, hurting me in the long run, hurting my game, because if I was to just stay back here with my team, I've got, even if they're not a particularly strong team, I've got some backup in case these guys start shooting at me. Let's say I take 3 of them out and I don't account for this guy, then, hopefully one of these other guys can pick him up shooting at me or whatever. Okay, I should also mention there are indeed times when you do need to flank. And a flank is what's necessary to get your team to move forward. So let's draw that up real quick and take a look at what that's going to look like. All right, so here I've drawn it up. Let's say we have this situation going on. We got a nice little front line just right in the middle between A and B right now. We're pretty well ignoring the fact that maybe both teams, for whatever reason right now, are ignoring C. Let's just focus on A and B at the moment. And you have this kind of situation, this kind of front line going on right now. And there's a little bit of a cluster of enemies, say, right here. You've got several of them. Well, you notice that it's a little bit weaker right here. So here's an instance where a flank could actually be beneficial to your team, because you've got a cluster of the enemies right here. Think like Operation Underground, for example. You're pushing up that staircase to go to one of the rearmost flags, and this is the stairs and the windows that everybody's looking out of, and the enemy's super focused on just looking out those windows and shooting everybody there. Or think of the topography. Perhaps there's hills and there's a rock here, and it's kind of like a crest. That's where this front line is. Well, there's a lot of open space right here. There is one guy back here, and he might be looking this way. He could be sniping or whatever. But let's say, this is an instance where a flank could actually be really beneficial to your team. So your team's primarily focused here. The fighting is in this area. And let's say you're this dot, and you know this front line's happening. Well, there's an opportunity for a flank right here, and there you have to be aware of when these situations kind of arise, because this is one instance where you might, if you feel like you have the capability to do so, you might want to go ahead and try and jump on this flank and move up this way, because you notice there's a vacancy of enemies, or you happen to know maybe you came up here and died and realized there's not a lot of people this way, and you've spawned back in, you're coming back in. You want to hit this flank, come into this open area. Let's say, for example, this guy is looking this way, and you come up here, you've moved up, and you're now in this spot. You see this guy, whatever, you take him out, cool. And none of these guys are all focused on this battle that's happening right here, kind of between the flags. Here's the opportunity for the flank to come in. This is when you move down this way. You get up behind these people. Maybe this guy's not paying attention, they just spawned in or whatever, or they're, building fortifications or something on the flag. So let's say these guys don't see you at all. Look at all of this empty space back here. There's a ton of space. You're pretty free and clear. You could go ahead and push over to the flag this way and start the cap process, but then you're going to have to deal with these guys, and that could be bad. You want the team support. So what you're going to want to do in that situation is actually pull off this flank, like this line here is indicating, and you're going to catch these guys by surprise. They're all looking at your team, and here's where the flank can come in handy, because you can come in right back here, do a couple quick target switches, and just catch these guys completely unaware. Maybe you get help from your team in that as well. Then all of a sudden you've flattened that entire offensive front right there, and now your team, all of these guys have the opportunity to move in here with you. And these guys are all on respawn that you just took out, and now there's just 2. Now you have an entire team that's moved up with you. You're right here. You can move in with them as well. Suddenly it's a massive, you can just overwhelm these guys and take them out. That's an instance where you're probably going to want to actually break this front line, and you want to set all that up by being this guy that can take all these guys out. Just wanted to mention that, and bring up the importance of flanks. And you got to know when you can do them, smartly, so you're not putting yourself in a bad situation. And, you got to recognize the instance where it can be really helpful to your team. And then that goes into, I want to bring up Ender's point as well, that and this has been a common theme that I've seen in some Reddit posts and some tweets and some stuff that's been shared online, that kills don't matter, PTFO is the only way. You support your team, capture flags, you don't need to kill people. But the thing is, you absolutely have got to kill all of these red dots off of this C flag in order for your team to come out here and take it. These have got to be gone. These can't be here. And the only way to do that is to kill them off of there. And it's funny to see, even in Battlefield's own marketing, in the Battlefield briefings and stuff that they've been putting up, especially as we get into 2042, they're kind of talking about different ways to earn score and stuff like that in the game and progress. Killing is not even something that they really mention very highly on the list. In fact, they didn't even, I took note of that on one of them. They didn't even mention killing as one of the primary ways to get score in the game. But you absolutely cannot control this C flag and this A flag unless you're killing the people off of it. I don't understand this mentality of you just get on C and then you take it. I mean, sure, but they're not going to give it up willingly, and it's a first-person shooter. The point of the game is to get these blue X's here. You want to be taking these people out and pushing them back this direction, back towards A, so that you can cap this. Ender's video was really, really good about, he was talking about that, and he said, you got to kill people, and because that's the point of the game, and that's how you get map control, is you take all those people out. And, this is common sense, sure. And I'm sure I'm going to get the comment on this video that this is common sense. Obviously, this is how Conquest works. But is it so obvious? Is it so obvious? It seems like a lot of people don't understand this concept. And I'm not saying it that way to, berate people. But I do feel like I was talking about in Battlefield's own marketing, I feel like they don't put enough of an emphasis on how you actually win the game, and I feel like a lot of people just don't understand the flow, the front lines, the way to control the map is to take people out. I can't harp on it enough. That's how you do it. So the other stuff I talked about in this video, working with the front lines, that's kind of a more high level, concept. It doesn't have to be, but it sometimes certainly seems like it is. And like I've said, that's something I need to work on in my own game. I need to stay with this front line, because that's going to keep me alive longer. And if I'm alive longer, then I'm going to be able to help my team further than rather, if I was up here just trying to ego challenge several enemies on this A flag all at once, And, depending on the strength of the server and the enemy team, I might be able to take out 3 people, fairly easily, depending on my positioning and stuff like that. But there's always the chance that this guy is going to turn around and get me, or, maybe I don't even see him, but one of these guys that I killed first, they respawn. And one of them's I just killed him, so he's very aware that I'm on this side of the A flag. Maybe he switches up his loadout, he picks up a ZH-29 or something with a little bit more range, or a semi-auto, and he just, doink. He knows exactly where I'm at because I just took him out. He spawns back in, and boom. But I don't have a lot of backup because my team is still fighting on the main front line that I pushed past. Let's say I got past these 3 people initially. They're still fighting here. I've kind of flanked around, but then I got myself in a bind, took out 3 of them, but then this guy respawns and takes me out. So this is just a video, kind of for educational purposes, part of my own learning and improving in this game, and just working with front lines. But yeah, hopefully I made that about as clear as mud. Just kind of a spur of the moment video I wanted to record because Ender's video kind of inspired me to do this the other day, and I finally got a chance to sit down and do it. And this is definitely something we're going to be looking at, as we move into Battlefield 2042, because this same principle is going to apply, especially in Conquest and, Breakthrough and all of that. Anything that's got flags and constantly shifting front lines, you want to be splitting this map into pieces and know where your safe zones are and where they're not. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry, it was a bit rambly, kind of off the cuff, but wanted to put this out there. I look forward to seeing you guys on future videos, so be sure to like the video again if you enjoyed it. If you didn't, go ahead and dislike it and consider subscribing to the channel. I'm hoping to get a lot more content, especially with 2042, coming out. I want to get a lot more stuff up and do more stuff like this, more informational content, gameplay highlights, weapon stuff, all kinds of stuff. I want to get it going. And of course, I also stream over on Twitch, usually evenings, 6:30 p.m. CST for about 4 hours, so until about 10:30 CST. I'm also looking at getting YouTube streams going as well. We might be doing like the last hour of my streams over on the YouTube side of things just to get that going. So feel free to tune in to those as well. All right, guys, I'm out. I will see y'all on the next one.